depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to talk about Paldean Tauros. Now, Paldean Tauros is a borderline playable card, a borderline interesting card that's coming around over in Japan we're talking Inferno X, over here we're talking about Phantasmal Flames, but either way, it is a card which is coming, it is a card which is cool. It is a card that a lot of people think is a lot better than it actually is, and the problem is, there is a big mistranslation doing the rounds. And I'm not entirely sure where it came from, because I do my own translations and check with the lovely Antoine Boulet. I don't need any other sources. I don't look at any other sources. So I'm not entirely sure who's spreading around this mistranslation, but whoever it is has made a lot of people vastly overestimate this Paldean Tauros card. Because it sounds amazing. And it is, in reality, just okay. Now, what this Paldean Tauros actually does is it does 40 damage for each of your Pokemon in play that have Tauros in the name. They do not have to be Paldean Tauros. Any Tauros will do. That have any damage counters on them. So, in theory, if you've got 6 Paldean Tauros or other Tauros in play, and they all have damage on, then you're doing 240 damage. That's not bad. That's actually kind of okay. That'll do quite nicely. Especially being a fighting type, you're hitting a decent weakness on a bunch of different types. You know, you've got colorless Pokemon, lightning Pokemon, darkness Pokemon. You're hitting all of these at some point. So, yeah. Decent. We'll talk more about this in a moment. That is not the translation that a bunch of people were peddling around. The translation that was being peddled is, this attack does 40 damage for each damage counter on each of your Pokemon with Tauros in its name in play. I.e., it's not maximum 40 damage per Tauros, it is potentially a whole lot more. Now here's how dumb this could get with the mistranslation. We have a stadium card in the new set called Risky Ruins. And Risky Ruins says that whenever you play a Pokemon, and it doesn't have to be from your hand, it is play a Pokemon in any way, even something like a Buddy Buddy Poffin would count here. Whenever one of your Pokemon is played to the bench in any way, they take 2 damage counters unless they're a Darkness type. Darkness type get away from it. They're used to the Risky Ruins. Anybody else, if it hits the field, it takes 2 damage counters. Oh, that is far from ideal. Unless you want to be damaged. If you want to be damaged, oh, that's lovely, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's just pretend you can get 5 Tauros onto the bench. And we're not worried here about damaging your active or using any way to extend your bench. We're just getting 5 Tauros on the bench with Risky Ruins in play. Well, that means that you've got 5 Pokemon on the field, each of which is going to have 2 damage counters. That's 10 damage counters in total. Times by 40 is 400. This is an attack for 1 fighting energy. Honestly, this is one of those, and I'm not saying this is the easiest translation ever, just to be clear. It's not. I 100% understand why the mistranslation happened. What I'm saying is, when you translate this as 40 damage for each damage counter on each of your Pokemon with Tauros in its name, that should instantly jump out to you as kind of broken, especially when you remember that Risky Ruins is a card, which is not actually even in this set, it's in Mega Revolution, to be fair. But as soon as you remember about Risky Ruins, you should go, oh. Yeah, there is no way that's the real translation. Because all you need is to bench 5 Tauros with Risky Ruins in play, you've got 10 damage counters on your Tauros Pokemon, and you're doing 400 damage. That's obviously far too good for a single energy basic Pokemon. It would become, as far as I'm concerned at least, and as always, argue with me in the comment section, this seems way too good. All I need to do is have an active Paldean Tauros with a single energy on, get a stadium and bench 5 basic Pokemon, and I'm doing... And let's just say you use like a Squawkabilly. Because actually, you know what? I want to make sure I'm getting 4 Pokemon, use Squawkabilly, get a bit more speed going. Okay, let's do that instead. So I'm using Squawkabilly. I've only got 4 Tauros on the bench. Okay. Well, that's 8 damage counters. It's 320 damage. Which is enough to KO things like Dragapult and Gardevoir in one hit. It'll get stage 2 EXs. Not all of them, but a bunch of them. And again, we look at that and we go, well, hang on a second. There's no way that can be right. It should be one of those cards where when you translate it like that, you go, hang on a second. That can't be right. I don't even need to fill my bench. I can use Squawkabilly here, which is going to mean I've got a much better chance of pulling off the combo. It's a stadium, 4 basic Pokemon on the bench, and a basic Pokemon in the active with a basic energy attached. That's what you need to hit 320 damage, turn 1 going second, and start KOing everything. Do we all start seeing how this could end up being a little bit broken good? By the way, when we say a Pokemon with Tauros in its name, that includes Tauros, Paldean Tauros, any potential Tauros EX. We don't have Tauros EX right now, let's be clear. But if one were to come around... yeah. And just to be clear, we had a Tauros in Destined Rivals. Actually, 2 energy, 100 to an evolution, not terrible. And we had a Tauros with Rage in 151. 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So we've got a bunch of regular Tauros and Paldean Tauros. So make no mistake about it. Having, putting 8 in your deck and getting 5 in play turn 1, it's not that big a deal, honestly. Like, you should be able to do this quite easily, and you'll have, even if 1 or 2 prizes, it's really not a big deal. You're gonna be fine. With Risky Ruins, as a basic Pokemon with a single energy attack, that is way too good. Like, proper job, over the top, ridiculous too good. And like I say, if you get 5 bench Tauros with Risky Ruins in play, which is still not the biggest task ever, then you're talking about 400 damage, turn 1 going second, on a basic Pokemon for a single energy. How does a mistranslation happen? Well, my inkling is, it's because Japanese can be a bit awkward in some ways. So the phrasing here is, on your field, and it doesn't actually say... Pokemon that you have with Tauros in their name and damage counters on. The construction in Japanese is damage counters on name including Tauros Pokemon. It's one big prefix to Pokemon. It is one of the awkward parts about learning Japanese, but it is basically all the descriptors and then finish with Pokemon. So has damage counters on name includes Tauros Pokemon, 40 damage. Or times 40 damage. That's how it actually comes around. It is understandable. It is absolutely understandable that people make this mistake. I understand where the mistranslation came from, but there's 2 lessons to be learned from this card. Number 1, if a card sounds that good, you really need to be questioning the translation. Because honestly, with Risky Ruin in play, that's a potential turn 1 going second, 400 damage on a basic Pokemon for 1 energy. 5 bench Tauros, 2 damage counters each, 40 damage times 10, 400. And also, be more careful where you get your translations from. Wherever you got them, I can tell you it wasn't from me and it wasn't from Antoine. So start questioning where the translations are coming from. This has happened a few times lately. Again, I do the translations myself and check with Antoine. I am not looking at anybody else's translations. The first time I see them mistranslated is generally when I see people complaining online that they found out that they are mistranslated. But the last time this happened in such a high-profile way was Team Rocket's Factory. Now, what the card actually does is, once during each player's turn, if they've played a supporter with Team Rockets in their name, they may draw 2 cards. Anytime during the turn, as long as they've already played a supporter with Team Rockets in his name, you can draw 2 cards. The way it was mistranslated is, when you play a supporter with Team Rockets in its name, you can draw 2 cards. Gives you less choice about when to activate it. This one was the other way. This one made the card a fair bit weaker. And then people realised the correct translation and went, oh, that's a lot better. I do want to point out that in this situation with Team Rocket's Factory, both the lovely Antoine Boulet and myself were sharing the correct translation from the beginning. Be careful where you get your translations from, and be careful because if a card sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And as a fun little historical side note, the first big mistranslation I fell for was Regigigas EX back in Next Destinies. I originally saw it translated, and I won't name where I got the translation from because that's not important, and it was wrong. But when I first saw it, the translation that I saw was 60 damage, and you can do as many times 20 damage as you like extra, and do the same to yourself. It's actually just, you can only do 20, and then 20 to yourself. You cannot do like 160 for free energy and then 100 to yourself, which is how it was originally translated. I still made a deck with this. I came 33rd at the biggest tournament in Europe with this. Yes, I was a top 32. Yes, I was fuming. Won a city championships with this and got a couple other good results. It was still a very cool deck, but it worked on a mistranslation, and I thought that was kind of funny. There is still potential here with Paldean Tauros. You're still talking about a card that can do 200 damage for a single energy. Well, up to 240 if your active is damaged as well, but I'm going on the assumption that you're just playing stuff to the bench and using that, and that's fine. And you know what? It could be cool. It is not the potentially broken card which seemed to be, but that doesn't mean it's not a playable card, and that seems kind of fun to me. But I've told you all of this now, I've given you my warnings, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section. Do you think it could still be good? Go nuts! But be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Zarek Paris, who's been a supporter of ours for a little while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout-out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.